Okay, we'll call the meeting to order of the City of Kearney Park Board, Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Eric, have you taken roll?
Everyone is present except Greg Gillahan.
All right. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from our March 21st meeting?
Yes.
Any comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion. Oh,
Second?
second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Public requests and petitions.
Board Taylor Neff, she is a community forester with the Missouri Department of Conservation, is here to make a presentation regarding our Tree City USA certification. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right, stand up here, yes. Hi, yes, my name's Taylor. I'm with the Missouri Department of Conservation, and we administer the Tree City USA program for Arbor Day Foundation for the state. And I started in January, so I'm a new community forester for Jackson, Platte, and Clay counties. So part of my work is to support you guys. The Tree City USA program is used to honor communities that are making community forestry a priority. So you need to spend $2 per capita on community forestry efforts, have a tree board or a designated person or board that cares for the community forestry projects. You need to have an Arbor Day event, and you need to have a tree ordinance of some sort. And you guys probably know all of this because I'm just here to say congratulations because you guys got it for the 10th year. So really appreciate what y'all are doing up here. And yeah, you got a flag, and Eric mentioned that you haven't done a tree planting yet, but maybe when the pickleball court's open, you guys will plant some trees. And then this is a nice flag. It should say 10 years on it. And then you guys got some really nice street signs too that you guys can put up somewhere.
Fantastic.
You guys have any questions?
Very good.
I had heard that you guys are fading out the Bradford pear trees. Is that correct?
Well, we aren't encouraging that they be planted, and there are some buyback programs that are going on in the state. So there's one that's in Lee Summit, and then actually the next closest one is in Lenexa, Kansas. And one of those was today, and I think the other one is this weekend. But essentially residents can submit a photo of a calorie pear tree that they've cut down, and then they can get a native tree as a replacement. And I met with Liberty recently, and they asked if I would send the details of the program because they were considering just hosting their own, since they haven't been able to reach that out to other communities. So I can send Eric the details too, in case you guys wanted to.
That'd be great.
Consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're stinkers. Did you guys see them all along the highways
We did.
throughout the past few weeks? Yeah.
So
Now we have red buds at least, so that's a little more cheerful.
is that what you're encouraging them to replace them with?
There's a lot of good options. Wild plum also has a white flower and kind of a similar growth habit, so that's a good one. They're really tough too. Choke cherry I really like. It can kind of have more of a shrub form, so maybe not good for a street tree, but also has white blooms. Of course, the dogwood has white blooms, but yeah, the redbud's great, and it's great as a street tree. It can really tolerate the tough sites. So, but I can send you guys a list of that too.
That'd be great.
Details about the program.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for supporting forestry, and reach out if I can support your planting or preservation.
Do you have any cards?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
for
you.
coming.
And
Yeah, of
gave your
course.
presentation, and I do know that we didn't do the actual Arbor Day celebration. We're gonna wait because we've got a bunch of trees that we're planting up at the pickleball court.
Yeah.
And we're gonna include that
I think that's fine.
in our Arbor Day celebration.
And really Arbor Day isn't until next Friday,
Right.
the National Arbor Day. So.
Yeah, we did the Missouri one on Good Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many trees do we have approximately going in up there?
Oh, probably about 15 up there, I'd say. And then some shrubs as well, and then naturally the grass and things, but we've got a lot of trees going in.
Good.
We're also replacing Jesse Jane.
Pardon me?
We also replacing a couple trees out at Justice Jones Park.
We always do, yep. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Here's-
Welcome to the area.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm excited. I've done some work to get some farms in the area, so semi-familiar, but excited to get to know your guys' canopy at some point too, a little bit more. All right, I'll leave that there.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Lauren Osborne.
I'll introduce Lauren. She is one of our consultants that we've been working with for a number of months now. Sheila, Ryan and I, and she's with Water's Edge Aquatics, and we're going to talk about the pool survey and all things pool. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I'll do an introduction. Before we really get into the meat and potatoes, I want you to get to know me a little bit. Why we're here, what we're doing, we can all be on the same page, on the same foundation to move forward. So firstly, like Eric said, my name is Lauren Osborne. I'm with Water's Edge Aquatic Design. We're an engineering and design firm only specializing in aquatics, including natatoriums, water parks, indoor, outdoor, small, large civic water displays like what you see outside of Union Station. So this is all we do. We do water recreation. And I've been with the team for about 5.5 years now, and my sole focus within that is planning and public engagement projects. I work throughout the United States. Our meat and potato and my meat and potato of projects is going to be Minnesota down to Texas, just right here in the Midwest. I have clients very near you. I have clients a little bit further away from you, but the nature of your project is very in line with what we do. But I'm not the only one, although you're gonna see me and hear from me much more than others. It is not just me flying solo. So we have a team of designers and engineers back at the office who are also present with this project, even though you don't see them. And then we also have SFS Architecture on the team, and they get tagged in. We start talking about buildings or indoor facilities. That's when they're gonna get triggered to come in. And then we're also working with the Landscape Architect Group. It's Vireo, again, out of the Kansas City area to represent in that sort of way. And then as we work through site development, not just the swimming pool, but maybe outside of it, Vireo is gonna step in and they're gonna help assist as well. But where we're at right now is we are really trying to understand what does aquatics mean for you, what's the right direction moving forward, and then this starts to get a little more comprehensive as this ball keeps rolling. So that's kind of the lay of the land. We do have a kind of a packed agenda today. I want to respect your time as much as possible. We may run up until 8, so I'm not sure if we have a hard stop time, but we'll just see what happens as we go along here. Before I really, like I said, get going, the screen's frozen. I want to keep this in front of everyone. All the work we're doing is for a finite time period in April of 2024. So what's happening is right now is it's time to study what is going to be right for you, and the direction is April of 2024 for a public vote. What that vote is going to be, still to be determined. We do have kind of the lay of the land of at least the minimum, what we're going to be looking at, but there's going to be some alternatives within that, and we're going to start talking about that today. Today is exciting because this kicks off public engagement. You all have known about this for some time. The general public does not know details behind this. General public gets looped in really more inclusively effective tomorrow. So this is the kickoff for public engagement. And the whole point right now is it's a lot of listening, a lot of learning. There is no decision made. There's no path forward yet. We have some options to fit within the budget we know about that we're going to be talking to you and the public about. But this is all about listening, right? And so, you know, for the park board, for us, for all team members, for city staff, that's what we need to be clued into, is what is the public going to be saying? And is aquatics going to be supported, and to what degree, so that when it's time to show up to place that vote, we have a pretty good idea what that's going to be. We don't want to be blindsided by a vote we weren't planning for. So that's kind of the lay of the land. For today, I want to briefly talk about this project background. I want to talk about what's going on with public engagement. I'm going to start to review some of the study findings we have found so far. Again, we need that to start to develop options, and I want to report that back to you. We'll talk about the scenarios that are on the table that fit within the identified budget and schedule and all that fun stuff. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of content today. If you have a question, I can go either way. If it's burning in you, let's talk about it at the moment, or we can wait, whatever this group wants to do. There's about 45 or so slides, so let's plan for about 45 minutes or so, minutes of this presentation. So project background. What is the goal here, right? It is to understand what the community needs are and what the desires for swimming are here in Kearney. But kind of in addition to that, we want to make sure that the aquatics plan that's developed, it's meeting needs not just now, but down the line. Because with what you guys are looking at, there's going to be minimal opportunity within 2 to 3 decades of you to change your plan. So we want to make sure that the plan makes sense, you're comfortable with it, the community's comfortable with it, staff are comfortable with it, and you get to move on for the next 30 years. That's the goal. But we really want to be making sure that we are maximizing financial sustainability and feasibility along with operational sustainability. And there's so much that goes into that, but we don't want to forget or lose sight of things can be exciting, but it takes real resources in order to operate it. So we want to make sure that we're being cognizant of that with the plan. So what are the big questions? Question number 1, is there a need for aquatics? And if so, to what degree? What might that mean for Kearney residents? Indoor versus outdoor, where there's an express need and desire for both of those. So what we want to try to understand is, what does that mean? When we say outdoor, what does it mean? When we say indoor, what might be included? There is likely going to be a separation within the community on this issue. We can expect seniors to want the indoor swimming pool so they can do water fitness and walking and lap swimming ongoing throughout the year. We may see families who say, no, I don't want to pay for that. I want to take my kiddos to swimming lessons outside and I only want a 3-month operation. There's typically going to be a divide here. So everyone just be aware, it's normal, it's common, but it's something we're going to have to navigate through and really dig in over time once we start learning more. And the third big question is, what is it going to cost? And for us and for you, that means 2 things. What does it cost to develop it? Right, the capital cost, the development costs, and then what is it going to cost to continue to operate that thing? What is it going to cost for personnel and utilities and water and all that good stuff, right? So those are the 3 big questions we need to answer at the end of this thing. I should have told you previously, and I'm so short, I'm sorry. Can I move this?
Sure.
I'm just gonna move it there. This study needs to be completed by the end of 2023. And I'm going to go over the schedule, but as we think about everything we need to digest and consider and study and solicit feedback on, our timeline is now through December 2023, when ultimately this will culminate in a presentation to City Council. And at that time, we'll see what happens. I don't know the particulars behind that, if we're asking for action or not, probably not, but I don't know. But that's kind of the timeline, but we'll address it more later. Let's get into it. What is the location? So the city does own property here at 19th Street in South Jefferson. I highlighted it in red. This was relatively recently acquired and has been identified as the site for this particular project. There are 11 acres. The aquatic center may or may not, likely won't take up all that, but it just depends. That's the site we have to work with. Outside of what you see in red, that's all we know right now. And the facility that goes on there, that's what we need to figure out. I want to jump right into funding. I like to lead with funding because we already know what it is. We know exactly what the funding source would be. We know the implication, more or less, for community members. And I want to report to you, if you do not know what the budget is. So when we think about this project, there are 2 ballot measures or 2 funding mechanisms at minimum that we know would have to be utilized in order to fund a swimming facility. Again, budget is to be determined specifically, but we know the maximum. So the first item to talk about and to really understand is the cost for capital development and construction. The monies for that would be coming from GO bonds. So this would be at least one of 2 minimum ballot measures for funding. The GO bonds is for 19.5 million, would be what the ask is of the general community. 19.5, that is what you'd get for GO bonds. However, there are administrative costs that are affiliated with acquiring bonds. So the project costs we know is going to be 18.9 million maximum under the GO bonds. And I like to be clear about that with you, really, so that you can help be a champion of communicating this point. Staff and I have talked quite a bit about this project has so much detail and information. We do think that the general public is going to need as many people as possible to really help communicate kind of what's going on. So when it comes to GO bonds, that is to build this thing up. 19.5 is the total, but again, we got to subtract admin costs out of that. So 18.9 is the maximum for capital development. That is our identified maximum budget at a minimum, okay? The second ballot measure and the second funding mechanism that is really important to keep in mind is you got to pay for the personnel and the water and the utilities and all the deck chairs and all that kind of stuff. So the funding for ongoing operations would be coming from a 50-cent park sales tax. And the revenue off of that is estimated to be up to $400,000 for that vote. So now we've got two, yes, sir.
Sales tax or property tax?
That 50-cent sales tax.
That says property tax.
Oh, I'm talking down here,
The bottom.
bottom.
Okay,
Annual operations.
Yeah, annual operations. So we need to keep these two budgets in mind. They are not one and the same. So when we start to develop options, which I'm going to present 4 options to you today, all fit both of these well, 3 out of 4 fit these 2 parameters. So again, we have the 18.9 development costs, and we have the facility that can't be more than $400,000 annually to operate the thing. Okay, so those are 2 ballot measures at a minimum that would be required to get this project going. Now, I do want to point out on the property tax, that's the first vote for capital development. I'm going to show you a slide here in a moment, what that means for you, what that means for the community. You can see up here, the kind of small data point is it's 0.52 cents per $100 of assessed property value. You don't need to remember that. This is really what it means for a community member. For the 19.5 million in GO bonds, we have a chart here. It'll be on the public surveys. It's on the website. I'm going to show you here in a minute. Folks need to understand what this means. So how you read this chart is a property's value is listed over on the left. The value that would be taxed under this is that second column. It's 19% of that. And then you can see that third column is what the annual additional tax levy would be on that property. So just an example, if you had a $300,000 home, $57,000 of that is applicable for this tax, and $296 would be the additional property tax for that property owner under this scenario per year to fund this thing, or to pay back the bonds is really what it's for. So again, it's going to be really important, not just for you, but for the entire community when they're voting on this, when they are digesting this information, what the impact is going to be annually.
And is that annually infinitely, or is there like a 20-year, 10-year?
I believe it's 20 years, right?
Until it gets paid off.
Which is
about
approximate
20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you broke it down monthly and daily, what it would be if you wanted to look at it that way.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into account growth though, by percent, correct? City growth, as far as residential growth? The 20 years?
So you're saying that the property tax levy might go down if we added more people?
As we had
That is real.
residential,
Yes.
that likely the sales tax revenue would probably only be based off existing sales tax revenue
Yes.
projections, not the growth we anticipate
Yes.
to come, okay.
Okay, so this is big nugget number 1, right? This is the first big thing someone's gonna need to swallow. So I lead with this, so I can show you examples later, and you have a foundation for that, and then we're gonna keep coming back to the funding piece. If history is gonna repeat itself here in Kearney, funding is the #1 issue. It is going to be the #1 issue. It will always be the #1 issue because not everyone is going to agree that spending money on a recreational facility is what they want to do. There could be other projects in the city that start to get weighed up against this. We can expect that. It happens time and time again. So what's going to be really interesting about this process is what are all those additional ideas and needs and concerns that are going to come out. So again, I do not tell this to the general public, but your park board, I think it's important that you know that sometimes we learn stuff that we had no idea was coming at us. And if that's okay, it's normal. But when you receive that, we want to make sure we hear it, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is listen honestly, clearly, and we just genuinely know what the community is actually thinking. So again, at the end of the day, if you're going through all this and you really want a facility, we want your community to feel good about this. We want them to show up to the ballot. We want them to vote yes, if that is what the direction of Kearney is going to be. So again, we want to lead with clarity and transparency, and that's why we want to be very upfront about the funding piece. As we were kind of progressing through this early phase, it kind of came up that, well, what if you or the community, you want something larger, you want something bigger than what can be given under those two previous funding mechanisms? What if we want to increase the budget? What would that mean? And I'm going to show you a scenario in which this particular option comes into play. If the community decides that you want to expend more capital than what can be provided in that 19.5 of GO bonds, there is a third funding mechanism that is available, and that would become a third ballot measure. So let's say we wanted to increase the budget to 30 million. That could be a comprehensive outdoor, it could be an indoor, we could also find out through this process, maybe we need to bring up rec center. Maybe we need to explore that a little bit. So if we want to make this project bigger than what we initially thought, we're going to need the third funding source, and that would be special revenue bonds that is coming from the half-cent park sales tax. Okay, so it's a different bond. It's not the same funding mechanism as the GO bonds. It's through the half-park sales tax, but we can get up to 11.1 million extra dollars by doing that. Okay, so again, the main point to know is 18.9 is actually our budget for capital, 400,000 for annual operation, right? If we find that you need a larger project, here comes the third ballot measure, and that would be affiliated with the half-cent park sales tax for an additional 11.1 million.
And how do you run your pool if it costs $400,000 to run it every year? How do you run it if part of that 400,000 is going to pay back these other bonds?
From the best of my understanding, where the money is coming from, although it's the half-cent park sales tax, 400,000 is siphoned off already. So when we get to the 11.1 million, the 400,000 has been siphoned off to get us to the 11.1 is the best of my understanding. So with the projections in place right now, that's how much money that the half-cent could potentially bring in. So it's the same funding source, but you can't continue to offer that half-cent park sales tax if they don't vote for it. So initially, the first vote, the 400,000, that is one vote. When you get that, you've reached your maximum amount of that 400,000, and you're not continuously accruing that money, right, above and beyond 400,000.
Yeah. So the sales tax actually would bring in about 800,000. Currently, right now, the general fund is paying almost $500,000 towards park operations. So the whole going through this process, how can we fund park services instead of using general fund money to be able to use that for public safety, other things? The half-cent sales tax helps with the pool, and because general fund is completely tapped out and cannot supplement a pool. And so you're allowed to do a half-cent sales tax for a park. And so asking voters, would you want to pay? So it's the $400,000, the general fund would continue paying that until all those that money, does that make sense? The general fund would continue funding
The park.
Until those capital expenses were paid off. And then that would 20, 30 years from now would free up money for additional general fund services like public safety.
So then the half-cent sales tax would be infinite. It would be set in place and it would go on forever.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing about a sales tax is that everyone that comes to our community that shops here is helping fund that.
Mhm.
With a property tax, only residents are funding that.
Okay, that was the hard part, in my opinion. Funding is always the hard part. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about public input. So like I told you previously, today is really kickoff. You're the first group that we're really talking to. So I want to tell you what else is going on outside of this meeting. We do have a public input meeting on this upcoming Monday, the 24th, at the high school. From 5:30 to 7, it's come and go whenever someone is available. So unlike tonight, it was a hard 6:30 start time. In this, someone can come and go whenever they want. They want to show up at 6:30, that's perfectly fine, and they can leave whenever they're ready. Stakeholder meeting. So we have had, or Sheila has had discussion with the high school, so we have some feedback about what the high school swim and dive programs need or what they desire in a swimming pool, if they were to be a partner or present in this project or facility at all. So we do have some understanding of what the high school may need. We have a meeting with the Greenfield subdivision on Thursday coming up. So that's going to be the first really public stakeholder meeting for that neighborhood. And to give reference, this is the neighborhood that abuts to or is adjacent to the property. It's really important for us to talk to them because right now they're used to green space. If they do not support the plan, this is typically what happens, the neighborhood is going to vote this down. So we do need to instigate them. We need to bring them along the process. We need to educate what the options are and get their buy-in for the site. So we need to consider them as like a partner or how we refer to as a stakeholder.
That's your job. I live in that neighborhood.
Great. Well, then I'm very happy you're on the
Some are already in and some, they don't know what's up.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's why we're having a meeting, right? So we can tell them about.
One lady this week, she's like, are we bringing in the quads? I'm like, no, those are,
What's the quads?
we were looking at quad apartments at one point.
Oh,
And they fought that really hard, so.
okay, I bet.
So this is, like, okay, this is better than quad apartments.
Yeah, I hope so.
For the-
Not scheduled, but it's on the docket, is to meet with the seniors at one of their scheduled senior lunches. We don't have a date for that. It's coming up. It'll happen sometime after next week. Okay, and there may be other groups. There's gonna be more than one public input meeting. It's just the first one that's scheduled. I'm sure we're gonna be back in front of this board to give some sort of update in the future. But just because I don't have everything listed here doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. It is a pretty comprehensive process. We do have a website. I'm gonna show you that website. Did you send the URL to the board?
No,
No,
we don't have.
this survey.
So perfect. Well, I'm going to end up giving you a QR code. You can scan it. You can have access to it effective tonight. But the website is going to be publicly released tomorrow. Same with the survey. You got a copy or a preview link to that survey. After this meeting, if there's any edits, we have time to make any edits. And then I believe Ryan is going to release that out to the general public tomorrow at 10 a.m. So.
Yeah, that's all right.
At 10 a.m. So that is going to be a big moment. As soon as that hits the street, all the fun stuff is going to begin. So tomorrow's a pretty big day. At the end of this meeting, if you do have edits to that survey or comments, we really need that in tonight because I'm going to need from 8 a.m. to 9:45 tomorrow to make any of those edits so that when Ryan goes live, they're done and it's ready.
I've got to leave at 7:30 tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw in my edit right now.
Okay.
On the iPhone, I was having trouble finding the button to forward on. I could do it on an iPad, I could do it on the PC. I tried every kind of device in my house.
What kind of phone do you have? Just so I know. Is it
Apple iPhone, yeah, it was like a 10.
You mean the next button?
Yeah,
Where
the
it said
next
next to go
button,
to
yeah,
the next
Right.
page?
I had to like I had to turn it, get to it, and it would just,
It came up on my
Were you okay?
iPhone easily.
okay,
Yeah.
so maybe it was just my phone. That's good.
I have a 13.
Oh, I have a 10.
I don't know if that makes a
Well, it works
difference.
great on the 14 Pro Max, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. I just have
the
a,
newest?
No, but that's good to
Somebody's
know
gonna
because
have
a lot
that
of people have a 10.
yeah, they may have an
So-
old 10.
Stacy did.
That's all.
Stacy,
Sorry,
Okay,
I just
okay, I'm
want to
sorry,
say
I
that.
had to rouse Eric and Ryan. Okay, yeah, that's good feedback. If you hear that, let me know. I don't know how much on older phones we're gonna be able to control how that is gonna showcase, but
Actually, you need a new
certainly.
phone.
There you go.
You need a new phone, I don't know.
That's easy, okay.
But thank you for that. And yes, we're gonna go through the survey. It is long. I can tell you, we really explored, are we gonna do a statistically valid survey? We chose not to do that because of the cost of it, but we did structure the survey as if it was statistically valid, and those surveys tend to get lengthy. There is a lot of information we need from your community in order for us to not waste time. We don't have time to waste. So there is a lot of questions. Some of it has to do with how you use it, and we'll review that. Some of it's gonna be about funding and to what level do you support? Because there's gonna be some stuff we learn very immediately about what the temperament is, and we wanna take the opportunity now to gauge that, and we can finesse and adjust appropriately versus get all the way to December, and now we have a plan that it's not gonna work. So that's why, I wish we could make that survey shorter. So if you have ideas, I'm gonna be very open to that. Every question on there, though, is actively usable by us in a myriad of ways. But we'll walk through that when I get there.
So you're saying the survey is gonna be up until the end of the year?
Survey, no.
No, a month.
Oh, a month.
We actually figured out the problem.
What was that?
It was because it was the preview
There's like,
and not the real
there's a
thing.
bar at the top.
There's a
and
bar at
bottom.
the top that's gonna
So you
limit
can't-
you being able to scroll down to the bottom. Christy figured that out. Christy
Thank
made
you.
it.
Thank you. Now I didn't know that.
Tech support right there.
Tech support. Now I know who to
Thanks,
call. That's
Christy.
your cell phone number when I get
That totally makes sense.
Okay, so yes, survey will be available for 1 month, April 19th to May 19th.
Okay.
The study is gonna continue until the end of the year. Will we do another survey? Yeah, probably. I'm projecting that we're probably gonna need to do another one whenever we have concepts ready. We're gonna take concepts and probably money and funding again to general public down the line. So we're doing survey one now to learn what's the temperament, what do you want? We can use that to then move forward and to develop a plan specific to you. Right now, the information we have, they're generalities, they're what ifs, they're scenarios, scenario options. Again, just to give some examples out there and start to collect feedback. So let's talk about market analysis. So to even get to the scenarios that we have out there, we have to do some level of study. So I want to report back kind of what has happened in that process. Because again, this is one of the building blocks to get us to a plan that works for Kearney. But before we just start asking people what they want, we need to know what's happening around you. So first step is Kearney population. You know this, just over 10,000. The map that you see up here, we track data on a mile radius around a community. So that's what you're seeing here at 5, 10, and 15 miles. Kearney is outlined in red there. So the projected population for Kearney in 2042 is going to be 27,000, and in 2047, it's a little bit higher than that at 34,000. Like I said previously, we are trying to plan for this facility, not just for now, but for 30 years from now. So we have to be watching what's happening with population so that we size you appropriately for your growing population, and you don't have something that's too small or doesn't fit the need in the future. And then you then have a problem of you don't have enough water space, and are you going to be adding on later? So we want to size you appropriately right now. So we're not using population today to do that. We're going to look for population 10, 15 years from now to size you appropriately, so you don't have to backtrack and do this again too soon. But when we look at the mile radius around you, we know you're going to pull. We already know that. We know the Kearney School District is going to pull. So we want to look at the population as we go out from Kearney. So you can see here, 2 miles out, just over 10,000, we'd expect that. 5 miles out, 17,000 right now. 10 miles, you're 82,000, and then 201,000 once you get closer to the south. The population really expands. So again, we just want to have some awareness of what's going on with population and how far out those people are. When we think about sizing and we think about who's going to utilize this, we want to be looking at where are they going to be coming from, how long is it going to take for them to get to Kearney. We care very much about Kearney residents, absolutely, but like Sheila said, the sales tax, when we think about cost recovery and revenue, we really want to be bringing in some non-residents as well. So what you're looking up here is where geographically are people where are they going to come from and how long is it going to take them to get there? If a community member in Kearney or outside is willing to drive up to 15 minutes, where is that? And that's what we see over and over again when we do surveying, that community members are typically willing to drive 10 to 15 minutes for a quality swimming program. We know that. So what you're seeing up here, the area in blue, that's a 20-minute drive into Kearney. The area in green, that's the 15-minute drive into Kearney. In red, that's going to be the 5-minute drive. So again, that 10 to 15 mile radius is really what we're honing in on to overlap with these drive times, 10 to 15 miles. And I'm going to get to why that's important again here in a moment. So within that distance, that 10 to 15 miles, and again, this equates to this drive time map, 10 to 15 miles is now what we're honing in on to be your service area. So within that service area, what's happening? What other facilities are out there? Because you probably know you're going to be competing, right? So when you have any recreational facility, you're going to compete with someone. We want to know what those are. So we know what can set you apart, what's going to pull people to you. And not that I want to take business away from others, but this is business for Kearney. So that's what I care about too. How are we going to get you the most usership here and bring people through the door? So up on the screen right now, this is that service area we just identified, the 10 to 15 mile service area. Any dot that you see in green, that is an outdoor facility, and I'm going to show you what those are here in a moment. You can see there's one to the north, and there's a clump to the south as you get closer to Kansas City. The dots in red are indoor pools. So again, Excelsior Springs, you're probably aware of that facility, and several down to the south. Purple is splash pads. We never want to ignore splash pads. Kearney, you have one. You likely don't need one, but it doesn't mean we don't want to know what's out there and where people might be going. We may hear someone say, no, we want another splash pad, and we want it at the outdoor pool. They're probably going to say that. I'm not saying it's right, but we can just expect that people like splash pads. So we're going to track it, and at least you know about them. So what are those outdoor facilities? The main point about this is just to get a general feel for the character of what is out there. And when I pulled this slide together and was looking at all these facilities, there's a lot of room for improvement for modernized, exciting, family-friendly facilities up here, I'd say north of the river. So you got Plattsburgh, which you can see that's relatively small. There's not a ton within that facility. We already know swim team is not going to be within that swimming pool. That's going to be a very community-focused swimming pool. Kearney may or may not be going. You don't have anything now, so maybe you do have community members going there, but it's not a necessity. It's not out of desire. I would bet money on that. Liberty, they've got an outdoor pool. Gladstone, you can see it. KC Genesis. I would doubt many people from Kearney are going to be going down to this Genesis facility, but you need to know that it exists. Oceans of Fun is going to be within this service area. What it costs to get into Oceans of Fun, what it includes, it's not comparable. I just want to let you know that it's within the service area. Casey Gorman Pool, we actually are very intimate with project work with the city of Kansas City. We're doing their master plan right now. So we know that kind of what's going on in Kansas City, and I bring that to you because Gorman Pool and Line Creek are both in your service area. Our team happens to know what's going on with the city of Kansas City and some of the challenges they have, so I wanted to bring that forward to you in your project because what Kansas City does or what Liberty does directly impacts Kearney and vice versa. And in full disclosure, I talk with the city of Kansas City as well. Because again, I don't want you guys competing. I want you to have your healthy services that fit for both of you. You can get your usership, meet your needs, and they can do the same, but we're gonna limit, kind of the competing between the two. We don't wanna set you up for that. So Gorman Pool is within this Line Creek Community Center and Riverside. We're also on the Riverside project. Riverside is going through an improvement project right now as well. So the character and nature of this is slightly changing, but again, not in a way that I think is gonna significantly impact Kearney.
Is Tiffany Springs outside of the service area?
Slightly outside. Yeah, slightly outside. It's a little bit further.
Yeah, and Independence too, they have a large facility there. Now, are all of these municipalities minus the privatization of the Oceans of Fund, or how's that break down as far as government and private?
Yeah, Plattsburgh government, Liberty government, Gladstone government, Genesis is private, Oceans of Fund is private, Gorman Pool's public, Line Creek's public, Riverside's public. So only 2 of those are public. I'm sorry, private.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Let's jump over. 3 indoor facilities. You got Liberty. You can see the character of that. That's a competition pool, 25-yard competition pool. You got Gladstone. Gladstone has both competition and family leisure within that facility. I just don't have the family leisure photo up there. And Excelsior Springs has an indoor. Of note, Excelsior Springs is planning an outdoor.
We're working on it right now.
Working on it right now, that's right. So SFS, who's on this team, just not present tonight, is also on that Excelsior Springs project. So we have a lot of regional awareness of what's going on, what's planning in the future, and just what is an outright development right now. So you can see when we think about indoor, there's some competition space here within the area. It doesn't mean Kearney doesn't have an additional need. It just means we need to be aware of where service is. When we start talking about operations for these types of facilities, we want to make sure that you can get people through the door every day, all day, because these things are expensive to operate, which means we need that revenue coming in so that Sheila's general fund or the sales tax doesn't get maxed out, and now what do we do? So we just want to be very aware of the competition that's out there and where they're going. And again, what's going to be
Genesis
right
also
for
bubbles theirs during the winter. They cover theirs during the winter.
Yeah, so well with Excelsior, actually.
Yep, Excelsior's going to.
Are they?
Mm-hmm. They're outdoor. Mm-hmm.
Do they not have Clayview or Liberty Hills anymore in Liberty?
Well, Clayview's Genesis now. Genesis bought Health Club.
Oh,
bought
that's
Clayview.
what that is, okay.
Okay, so that's just preliminary information to get us to sizing, right? So every step we go along, think of it like a building block, and we need the previous building block to continue to move forward. So we have your population, we have what's out there, the character of facilities that are out there. So what about Kearney? What does that mean? So we're going to be utilizing that population in just about 20 years from now, kind of where you're headed. So that 27 to 34,000 range is what we're targeting. Okay, so that's kind of step 1 to sizing a facility for you. Communities similar to Kearney, similar in character, similar in population size. On average, communities offer about 0.5 square feet of water per capita. So again, when we think about 27,000 to 34,000, let's say half of that is the amount of water we would want to offer on average. So if we take that, the sizing target for Kearney is going to be 13 to 16,000 square feet of water. That's not deck, it's not parking, it's not grounds, that's just water space. So that is the identified target range for Kearney. Could we come down from that? Sure. But we are using the future projection population in order to get us to this point. There's always opportunity for phasing. There's opportunity for building something smaller now and developing later. If we think that the general community would support another ballot measure or support another project down the line. We're not going in with that assumption. We're going in with, let's target for your growing population in several years from now, and that's the range we're going to be moving forward with. So 13 to 16, that's the number to work with. So what does that look like? So this is the bay down to your neighbor to the south. This is one of their water parks for the south facility. This is just over 15,000 square feet. So again, your range is 13 to 16. This is falling within that range, a little bit on the higher side. This is an example of a character facility for you on what you can expect. We'll dig into more details, but in general, we can expect there's going to be some level of lap space. There's going to be some level of zero depth and shallow water space. I can't tell a community yet who has come back and said, don't give me a lazy river. Everyone wants a lazy river. Water slides, large water slides are typically included. Slides for itty bitties are typically included, and everything in between. Facilities like this, there's something for everyone, and it's programmed from 6 to 7 a.m. to 8 to 10 p.m. at night, and there's something going on all the time for everyone. So again, this isn't necessarily the solution for you. It's just a character example of the size and character facility that you may be looking at if you were to develop a comprehensive outdoor pool. Indoor pools work very differently. Because of the capital costs on indoor pools and the ongoing operation, indoor pools are usually, what can we get for the budget? What's the maximum we can get for the budget to serve as many people as possible? Indoor pools do not go through the same sizing exercise as outdoor. It really is, what's the budget? 18.9 million. What can we get in there for indoor pool? Okay. So again, I want to walk through some of the scenarios we've put together. We have 4. 3 of them fall within the first 2 ballot measures. The last one needs all 3, right? I'm going to give you just some examples of that. So the first scenario is going to be a comprehensive outdoor pool. Second, and I'm going to detail these out here in a moment. Scenario 2 would be a modest indoor pool. I'll show you examples of that. Scenario 3 would be modest outdoor and kind of a smaller, more focused indoor. I'll show you examples. And scenario 4 is going to be the comprehensive outdoor with a modest, what we consider modest indoor. Before I show you examples, the reason I'm saying comprehensive and modest is to start to frame expectation. Because usually when we think about indoor pools, people think of private water parks. They're thinking of big 50-meter indoor pools plus kids spaces and the water slides that you can see within indoor pools. So we already know we've got to manage expectations. So I'm using the word comprehensive for outdoor because that's exactly what that is. But when we start thinking about indoor, I'm trying to use that modest word so that we don't have people out there thinking, well, we can have a Great Wolf Lodge. We know that we can't do that. So let's dig in. Let me show you some examples, what may be included under these 4 scenarios, and we'll go from there. So scenario 1, comprehensive outdoor pool. This is another example of what we mean by comprehensive outdoor. Again, we have deeper and shallow water and a mix of amenities. In this particular case, this is just over 14,000 square feet, so still within your range of that target that we're eyeing. There's a kids area, that's the pool to the foreground, the lazy river, which you can see, and then the lap pool in the background. Those are the different bodies of water. Typically on this size of facility, you are gonna see multiple bodies. Usually when we kind of get above 8,000 to 10,000, we start to see spaces separate a little bit to allow users to find their place and hang out for the day. The other benefit behind this is when you have multiple pools, it means your circulation systems can be separate. So when you do have the little accident that happens in the kiddie pool, it won't necessarily shut your swim meet down. They're on different systems. So you're gonna see that on this scale. Typically, you're going to see some separated bodies of water.
But you have a lot larger maintenance operating costs as well.
A bit, yeah, because you're going to have more filters, you'll have more chemical systems, more pumps, absolutely, yep. So you're going to have more of that. That's the other side of that coin, absolutely. Features included, typically you're going to see various sprays for your itty bitties. Kids play structure is something we see regularly in facilities of this size and character. Diving boards, typically 1 and 3 meter, we're going to see in there how that's delivered, it varies. But diving is typically included. 2-3 water slides is common in these types of facilities. Set up for swim meets and practice is very common. Starting blocks is common, and shade everywhere, of course. And then, of course, all the services within the structures, concessions, universal restrooms, gendered restrooms, sometimes party space if a community wants to go that route. So that building side, there's a lot to figure out, but a lot of opportunity with a facility like this. Just to kind of break this down even more, and these are representative images of the spaces I'm identifying here, so that for that 14,000, give or take, the kids area is about 5,000 of that, lazy river is about 4,500 of that, and lap area is 4,900 of that. So that just kind of gives you a lay of the land of how big or small these bodies of water can be, but they can change. These are just examples to make up the size of facility. Magnitude of cost for something like this is between 14 and 17 million.
With structures?
With structures. All right, so when we think about the GO bonds and we think about the available budget, this fits in it, right? And is projected to come under that, which is good. Scenario 2, modest indoor. Indoor pools are very expensive. There's no other way to say that. It's expensive to build them. It's expensive to operate them. But with, under that 18.9 million, this is a scenario that would fit within that budget. So this is why we say modest. It is not the most large indoor facility that could ever be. It will serve your community, but it won't be the Taj Mahal. So this is just over 6,100 square feet, including kids space, lap area, and a therapy area. When we talk to communities about indoor, almost always therapy comes up. So not just lap swimming and not just fitness. We do hear a lot that our population is aging. We want to be able to do therapy out of here or rehab. And we want users to have a different experience than just the lap lane. So therapy pools are becoming more and more common to talk about and consider. So if Kearney is going to be exploring just an indoor facility, we can expect this is going to come up, and it's something we're going to need to talk about. So therapy area, just a few more points. It's going to be warmer than the lap pool. Let me backtrack. The warmest body of water in this would be the therapy pool. Second warmest would be any kids space. Third warmest would be the lap pool. The lap swimmers and the swim teamers, they want cooler water. Kids need a little bit warmer water. Those doing therapy are going to need even warmer. So that's kind of the scale there. And if you do develop this, that's likely what you're going to want, because that's going to hit a lot of different people versus having the same temperature of water in 2 or 3 of them.
So you're again looking at multiple bodies of water, not just one.
Yes. Now the kids pool and the lap pool, that could be comboed. We do that in indoor quite a bit. When there's an opportunity to separate, we do, but that's not a wholesale solution. You could combo those two. Therapy pool would have to be on its own, but the kids pool and the lap pool could be together. One of the stakeholder groups is going to be swim team. So if swim team steps forward, the school district steps forward and says, yeah, we want to utilize this thing, they are likely going to come back and say, we would really prefer the kids spaces separate. We want the waves to be quelled. We don't want to cross that usership there. We want the kids over there, we want the swim team and dive team to have their space. But usually it's coming down to the swim teamers don't want to compete with water. And then if the kids pool is with the laps, that water travels over into the kids space and it can impact what they would consider the speed of the lane. So again, depending on what the stakeholder groups are going to say, we can expect that that's what they're going to come back. But it's not required to do it that way.
And it has to be colder. It has to be a certain temperature, doesn't it, for basing?
It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It'll be, what, 78? 78-ish, I believe, for them. Now, the kids' space could be cooler like that. That's perfectly fine. Will you hear people complain? You will. But you're gonna hear people complain every day about anything. So it could be one space. So here's the deal. These are just scenarios. They're not smoking guns at all. These are not the solutions. We're coming and saying, hey, these are the solutions for Kearney. They're not. They're just case examples of what could be under the budget, right? And when we go to the general community, we want to know, is this type of indoor worth it to you? Or do you prefer that outdoor? Or is there some other option? So again, breaking down, here's some amenities that would fit within here. Kids area, 2,500 square feet, lap area, 32, and therapy would be 400 square feet. This is a 6-lane lap pool. That's the easiest way to think about this. What you're seeing here, it's a 6-lane lap pool. That is kind of the minimum of what your swim teams are gonna need to compete. They're gonna prefer 8, and they're gonna even more prefer 50 meter. But 50 meter is not gonna fit in this budget.
It's 25. That's 25.
25, yeah. So under this one, it's 25 yard. Magnitude of cost, 15 to 19 million. So again, within this targeted budget range, our targeted maximum of 18.9. Yes, we project to 19, but we would still consider that in range for this type of facility. So again, this one, I just want to go back. Kids area, 6-lane lap, and therapy.
Can you still maintain it 400,000 a year?
This one, yeah.
So now you've got year-round employees?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying, I don't recall if I put it in this presentation. I do have the projected operations for each of these. I apologize, I don't know that I put them in this presentation, but we have that. And it's how we got to this point. And actually, no, I thought I put it in the survey, but I didn't. I can get you that. That's easy. Again, any scenario I'm bringing forward to you has already checked the box. Does it fit within the capital budget? Does it fit within the 400,000 annual? Okay, scenario 3. Now we're starting to go hybrid here. We're chopping it up, right? So we did all outdoor, all indoor. What happens when they come back and say we want both? So this scenario here, it's going to be smaller outdoor pool and smaller indoor pool. And again, this option fits within the first 2 ballot measure budgets. So what we're looking at first, let's dissect outdoor pool. So the size of this went from what? 13 to 16,000 total, down to 6. So what we're doing in this particular scenario is we're saying, okay, we're gonna keep family and leisure, you're staying outside. That's where you're staying. So we have a kids pool and a lazy river under this. All those kids, family-related features, a lot of those are gonna remain outside in this particular scenario. Indoors, the budget does not have it to go competition here, but it does have it to offer a smaller, what we call program pool. So what you're seeing here, it's a 4-lane, 25-yard. You could do practice in there. They won't like that, but you could do swim practice in here. You can have your swimming lessons out of here. You can have your aqua fitness, lap swimming, community lap swimming, water walking, all those types of programs can come out of here. What it can't do is competitive swim team meets. Can't do competitive dive meets here. But it's gonna pick up the core foundational indoor programs that we see over and over again. Like I said, that's gonna be community lap swimming, water walking, fitness of all variations, swimming lessons will be your core kind of programs out of this. But in addition to that, you're gonna see the therapy area popping back up in here. So again, there's still gonna be utilization or possibility for warm water and then therapy usage out of this option. So again, I break down the spaces here, but the moral of the story is outside is smaller than that initial scenario, focusing on kids and families. Indoor, we're focusing on the key foundational aquatic programming that we typically see. And I would project that we're gonna hear out of Kearney residents. Can't do swim team meets. Can't do dive team meets here, okay? Magnitude of cost, 15 to 19 million. So again, these scenarios were put together to fit within this budget. And I'm not saying this is right for you or wrong for you, it just is, to have some sort of blend of outdoor and indoor. As we were talking though, we were progressing and we figured out there could be potentially be another ballot measure out there if we needed more money to fit the needs of Kearney. So what does that look like? Comprehensive outdoor, modest indoor, what does that mean? So in this scenario, outdoor and indoor would be together. Same complex, same area, adjacent to each other. So in this particular option, outdoor, 9,500 square feet, it's gonna be a larger outdoor facility, still gonna be focusing on kids, family, general recreation, but at a larger scale, right? So you may see a bigger lazy river, you may see a bigger kids space, you may see more water slides out there. Diving could go outside, just as an example. So the character of outdoor is going to expand itself from the previous scenario of 3, more options. Indoor, we did put a splash pad in this particular option. Don't think about the splash pad you have here though. Think about, we know we have to be really efficient and cognizant of the amount of space inside. So instead of building more kids standing water, we're actually gonna put some sprays on the deck, allow those kids to play on the deck in the sprays, but we're not having to grow this building a lot and we're not having to add water in order to do that. So we do have a small splash pad in there to be cognizant of that. A lap pool would include 6 25-yard lanes, which puts competition back on the table in this particular option. And then you're gonna see the therapy pool here as well. Just some example imagery for you. So the 2 photos on the top, those are examples of the size of bodies of water we're referring to. They're very close in nature. And then same with the indoor spaces down below, what that might be or how big that may be. Magnitude of cost, 22 to 27 million. Like we talked about, that exceeds the original 19.5 GO bonds, right? Which would trigger that third ballot measure in order to get that additional funding to get up into this option.
And this is all based, like you're saying, from what people, when they start taking the survey and so we know when we get down to brass tacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, so here's what's gonna happen. Survey gets released out. In 1 week, we're gonna have some idea. This is what happens. The first week, hot and heavy, lots of stuff flying around. You all are probably gonna start to get emails and have more conversations. Staff typically start to get emails and have more conversations, and everything upticks, right? There's gonna be people who think, yes, finally. There's gonna be others who say, absolutely not. To any degree, absolutely not. But that happens everywhere. So again, if that happens to you, it's normal, very common. Our job is to just digest the information, accept it, sit on it, and then take that and develop your plan that fits. But just know, not everyone's gonna be happy. That's just the way this is gonna shake out. So what is the best way we can meet the budget, but also meet the needs that start to come back to us? That's what this process is all about. To go back, I did put the slide in here, so go me. The operating expenditures are up on the screen. So you can see that scenario 4, you are gonna max out. This is in today's dollars as well. So if your minimum wage goes up again, that's gonna start to get tight, right? Your minimum wage is what, $15 now, state of Missouri?
12.
12, are you going up to 15? Projected to? Even 12. If you do go above minimum wage, your personnel is gonna skyrocket. Personnel expenditures, I'm just gonna give you a little stat, 60 to 70% of your expenditure budget. So personnel is very, very important. It's gonna eat up a lot of your money. So when we think about how big something is, or if you're running year round, we really need to keep that in mind. So here's an example. Let's say you want 2 water slides, and you want those water slides at different heights. And we're thinking about lifeguards, and we're thinking about, is it gonna be difficult to recruit them, number one, and do you have enough? So you have 2 water slides, 2 different heights, they both terminate in the same pool. That is gonna require 3. But we know we wanna try to pull that expenditure budget down. We know that you may not want to hire that many just for water slides. So there's a design decision for us. We're not gonna have water slides at 2 heights. We're gonna pull them down to the same height, and now you have 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, eliminating 1 person. So that's an example of something we need to be very aware of moving forward. Eric, Ryan, Sheila, staff in general are gonna care about this. So long story short, and you've probably heard about this, finding and recruiting and retaining lifeguards can be a challenge. So outdoor is a 3.5 month operation. Typically you have your kids back from college, you need them, high school, you need them. Year round, they go back to school. Is it gonna be a challenge to find them? I can't answer that question for you. We do see that this is a consideration, and many times it's a driver of decision. So again, when we think about the size and scale, and is it outdoor or indoor, this always needs to be very present on it for everyone, including the community. So on Monday, when I'm talking with community members, you can expect I'm gonna bring up lifeguards. They need to know about this. 1, to generate excitement to get kids to apply, and 2, so that they're realistic. The last thing we want to do is you guys build something and you have to close because you don't have enough staff. We want to make sure that it's comfortable for everyone to operate. Okay?
So you're saying that the labor for employing people is gonna be more than the chemicals and the
Oh, by
broken
far.
filter and all that
Oh,
stuff?
Minimum wage is $12. That's minimum wage.
Gosh.
Your
I would
managers
think
may
the
make.
chemicals and the filters and, you go out and you buy a brand new boat and there's
Yeah.
something's gonna go wrong with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And
That's
I
gonna be
imagine
about
the
a quarter of
maintenance with this pool system is not gonna be cheap either, right?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, what's cheap?
That's why it costs 400,000.
Yeah, what's cheap? So think of it this way, your cashiers will make $12 minimum. Your lifeguards are gonna need to make more than that. So I'm actually on the leadership team for the Kansas City Metro Aquatics Council. So I'm very connected with the Kansas City Metro. am just outright friends with many operators in this area. Every year, wages are going up. They're competing with each other. I'm trying to think, just again, neighbors around here, lifeguards are starting at $15 to $16 an hour, starting. That doesn't mean they've worked here for 4 years, or it doesn't mean, you know, your head lifeguards are gonna make something else. Your pool managers may be in that $20 an hour, $18 to $20 an hour range. Your swim lesson instructors are gonna be somewhere in that range as well. So personnel is really important to keep.
And you're gonna need what,
Well, we don't
10,
wanna-
15 people?
Yeah, so if you want to turn around, I actually have the number of lifeguards projected up there. So under scenario 1, under that character, at any given time, you'll have 10 to 15 lifeguards at any given time, hiring between 42 and 58. That's on average. If you pick amenities that require more staff, that number is going to go up. This is just average. You may, well, I also want to say, although I say higher total, here's the deal. You're going to hire as many as you can, because there's a cajillion sports. There's so many other things the kids are doing. They tell you, I can work 10 hours a week, but I can't do more than that. You hire them because you need them for the 10 hours a week. So although I put the projection up there, most operators and agencies, they hire as many as they can possibly get. You don't turn lifeguards away anymore. So I actually started as a 15-year-old lifeguard here in Kansas City, and at that time, we had to compete. It was a tryout to get the job. Now, you are begging people to apply. You're paying for training. You're giving them uniforms. You're giving a lot to get people to do this position. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to set realistic expectation of when you build this and those doors fly open, you know what the realities of what it's gonna take. I'm not gonna sit up here in front of you or your community and say, oh, this is gonna be easy. That's a lie. It's gonna be work. It'll be worth it. From what, I don't have kids, from what I'm told, that's the same thing. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. Same with a recreational amenity like this, okay? So again, I'm always gonna put staffing at the forefront. Being 60% of an expenditure, that's a lot of money. And it's gonna be a lot of effort on staff in order to undertake this. So, okay, so that's my soapbox. I'll get down off of it. But I do have the slide here. Will they get a copy of this presentation? If I were you, I'd want this slide.
Yeah.
Just so you have it. So one thing I did not cover previously is the operating expenditures. So you can see in that 4th column there, the most expensive will be that scenario 4. If personnel wages go up significantly soon, scenario 4 is going to start to hit this threshold of 400. And then it's something to consider here. But operating expenditures are here. That scenario 1, 346,000, even with any projected personnel increase in let's say their hourly wages or whatnot, you still have some leeway to get up to that 400,000. But I want to focus on cost recovery. I can only speak from my seat. When I think about a facility, I want people through the door. I want money coming in the door because I want to relax. I want to ease up the expenditure budget. And in this case, there is no general fund available, but in other communities it is. And I want to alleviate the burden on that general fund so you can do whatever else you want to do with that money. So I want to talk about cost recovery. Even though your 400,000 may be covered by the half-cent park sales tax, from my seat, I don't care about that. I want you to have as close to 100% cost recovery as possible. So 80 to 90% projected cost recovery on that scenario 1. For a few reasons. One, there is something for everyone. We can program the heck out of that thing. We can get many people during the summer to come through the doors. That's kind of step number 1. And it's a 3.5 month operation. So there is something that ends about that. Scenario number 2, because of the nature of it, 40 to 60%, your families bring the money. Swim team thinks they bring the money. They usually do not bring the kind of money we're talking that we need. Your families bring the money. So when we think about that, we want to try to maximize that as much as possible. So with the nature of what we can fit in the budget, 40 to 60% is the projected cost recovery on scenario 2. That's the modest indoor. Scenario 3 would be a modest outdoor, smaller outdoor, with the program pool inside. Program focus, 60 to 80% on that one. A large driver of that is because of the outdoor pool. So we're gonna need that outdoor pool to drive revenue to help supplement what's going on indoors, because that indoor pool, you're gonna run at a loss inside. with any indoor, unless you're a big mega indoor water park, you're gonna run into deficit. Even with swim team there. Scenario 4 is gonna be 60 to 80%, so we're gonna bump that one up as well. Again, the outdoor is gonna carry this cost recovery a little bit in order to help supplement what's going on inside. So those are the projections for each of those. I did put the subsidy up there. There are some communities who say, yes, I can pull XYZ dollars out of the general fund to fill a subsidy. That does not apply here. So again, instead of focusing on subsidy level, we're focusing on the expenditure at 400,000 because of the funding source behind that. But again, I don't know what's important to council. I do not know what's important to general community, so I'm gonna go ahead and share that information with you anyway, okay? So what's the schedule look like? We're in public engagement or public input round 1. That's gonna carry us through, we talked about that mid-May or so. After we get done with that, we digest, we start to develop options based off of what we just learned. These scenarios, that's all they are, right? Character to budget, to start to have a frame of reference, not necessarily your solutions. So after public input is done, mid-May, then we digest it and we start to develop concepts based off of what we learned. That could be outdoor, that could be indoor, it could be a combo of both. I don't know what's gonna happen. We're gonna find out together. But that's what's gonna happen kind of through the summertime. Once we get to end of July and we have time to build those, we go back to public input again, where we get to say, here's what we learned the first time, here's what we did about it, what do you think now? It's kind of a checkpoint before we get to the end, and we can still make adjustment at that point. After that, we're gonna finalize. So we get the feedback the second time, we get a pivot, we get to play that dance and come up with the final concepts, the costs for those concepts, and then any recommendation that is gonna be required. Some communities are gonna want the consultant team to give a final recommendation. Some communities, I just presented 2 days ago, or not 2 days ago, Friday, where that community did not want recommendation, they just wanted the options to go to council, and then council was going to decide what direction they wanted to go. I don't know which way we're gonna go yet, we don't have to know, but again, August through September means we're kind of closing the door in public input, and we're finalizing this project out. October to November, we're gonna be working on that final report. That's us preparing to go to council through the report, presentation, etc. And then we will come to you before we go to council at that point, present, think of that like a dry run for council. You get to have your say, we get to do another checkpoint, we can make little adjustments before we get to council based off of your guidance, and then we will go do, not council, I'm sorry, Board of Aldermen. We will go to the Board of Aldermen after we see you. So you're kind of right at the end, but they're gonna have the final presentation. After that, we're into 2024, and we have 4 months to do, generate excitement about this vote. So from January to April, you get all the imagery that has been produced out of the report. We get to say, hey, go vote. You know, what questions can we answer? What concerns do you have? And we're gonna go through that process of meeting with folks, talking with folks, preparing the community to go to vote. And we're gonna give 4 months to do that. And then the vote will happen in April. So that's kind of the lay of the land. What after that? So let's say everything goes well. We do get consensus. We pass that vote. What happens? So this is an example schedule. Now this particular one is for the outdoor pool. Just to give you an example, the schedule is going to change based on the size and character of the facility. An indoor facility takes longer to construct. So we gotta buy that time. What you're seeing up here, this is the outdoor pool, so I'll break it down for you just a little bit. So the vote happens in April. We're gonna need 2 to 3 months to do all the administrative contract, execution, all that kind of boring paperwork stuff. We're gonna need a few months in order to get the city and any of your consultants ready to actually dig in and design this thing. Design will take approximately 7 months. So design, those are construction documents. That's what we mean by design. So you'll go through various stages of design. Again, if the project is bigger, we're gonna need a little bit more time on design. This is for the outdoor pool. So about 7 months for design. Bidding takes a month. Presumably you are gonna go through a competitive process in order to construct this thing, meaning an RFP or RFQ is gonna get released. You get contractors who then respond to that, and that takes about a month. From there, the city will select a contractor. That takes about a month to do selection and contract execution for that. Construction, about 12 months, but again, we're gonna need more time if this thing is bigger. So that's scenario 4, we're gonna need more time, 14 to 18 months or so. Commissioning and training, we need a plan for about a month, so this thing is built, and now Eric and Ryan need to get in there and go do their thing. Same with, you know, your 60 staff who just got hired and they gotta go learn this thing. And then opening, you know, Memorial Day 2026. But again, I think on the website, what you're gonna see, because we don't know the scale and scope of this thing yet, you're gonna see on the website, not Memorial Day 2026. You're gonna see end of 2026 listed on the website, because the general community, we don't wanna say we can be ready in May, and then they want an indoor pool and now we can't deliver. So on the very, very public facing side, you're gonna see the timeline say end of 2026. Knowing full well that we can do it sooner than that if this is just an outdoor pool. Right? I just don't want to say May, and then we have to, you know.
Yeah, bad weather during construction.
Yeah,
it's such a bad-
backtrack a bit. So I just want to be clear about what you're seeing here versus what the general community is going to be seeing on the website publicly. So website and survey, you have seen the survey, we're talking about it. Website is also available. This QR code, if you wanted to scan it right now, you could. It's going to take you to it. I can also throw it back up on the end as well. This is live, so if you send it out, it's live. As you look at it, whether it's now or down the line, you're gonna see that the survey is not linked right now. That's because I had you scan the QR code, and I don't want anybody to do the live survey yet. The link you got was just preview, it was like a test. What's gonna be on the website is the live survey, okay? So that, can you get it? Got it? Okay, so this is just an example of that. You're all looking at it right now. Let me see if I can get to it myself. So as you go through this, there's a lot of information. The goal behind this project is full transparency. Transparency means lots of information. But what we don't want to happen is general community says, you didn't tell us this. You didn't communicate this to us. You hid this from us. We don't want any of that. So in this particular case, you're gonna see a lot of information on the website, and that's okay. As we progress in this project, this website changes. All things, well, for the duration of this whole project, all things point back to the survey, back to the website. There will only be one QR code forever for the duration of this thing. This is where we're gonna drive people, always, right? Because we can update this, we can change it, modify it as we progress, as new information is available. This is where it's going to live. So what you have on here is how you can get involved. That's gonna be really important to folks. So right now, 10 a.m. tomorrow, they will be able to take the survey on this website. We're gonna have any public meetings. Now, stakeholder meetings are not gonna be listed on this website because those are they're public meetings, but they're not for everyone. They're meant for that focus group. So you are not gonna see stakeholder or focus group meetings ever on this website. So the Greenfield meeting we're having Thursday, you're not gonna see it on here. They got a private invite for that. But all the public ways will be listed here. We have the project background. Why are we even talking about this? Where are we at right now? We have that section, and then some really key considerations for this project. Again, what we have to do is try to help people understand the parameters of it and have realistic expectations of this project. The scenarios I walked you through, people can walk them through themselves, more or less. I didn't go into quite as much detail, but enough for them to either say, yeah, that's for me, or no, it's not for me. So there's an entire section just on those 4 scenarios, including what types of programs can go into that space. So for example, if you want swim meets and you're looking at scenario 3, that's not going to be a fit for you. So I did try to do an inventory of the programs that could potentially fit in, because when people think about aquatics, it's money and how can I use it, or how can my household use it? And if it's not going to fit for them, they're not going to want it. So we try to make that as easy as possible. I also have a progress or schedule of kind of what's going on. just to keep people informed of where we're at in this process. And then we also have some FAQs, questions we typically get asked, questions city staff typically get asked. We try to get them on here. And again, this is a living, think of this like a living document. So if you start getting the same question over and over and all of you get it, let's just get it on here. Let's just answer it and everybody can just direct them to the website and we have one standard answer for things. Yeah.
Speaking of questions, that whole square footage thing is based off a half a foot per population, but I want to know the capacity of these pools, and something that might help with the illustration of that is have a density map showing 150 people dot-wise in that pool, because I'd probably want about 4 square foot, I would say, you know, for maximization. But if you could do like a 150, 300, and 500 and do a density map within actually in those types of pools to kind of get a grasp or idea of, you know, what percent of the population is going to actually be using this on the busiest day. And I'm sure that there's health and safety, you know, parameters with that as far as how many are allowed in the pool at once, so.
Sure. Is there any way we could do that when we start to develop your concepts? Because right now we don't have a map to put them on.
Well, it just seems odd to me that we're basing it off of total population, and what percent of that population of the 26,000 in 2046 is actually going to be using the pool? Is it, you know, 3%, 5%, the busiest day on the busiest weekends, 4th of July, Memorial Day, whatever. So the hottest day of the year, you know, are they going to go there? And but I would like to look at the density and what that means. You know, is 1,000 people for this one unit is, and I know you're not gonna max that every day, so you're not gonna want the largest,
peak
but
time,
still.
peak day.
Yeah.
What's
but,
the
you know, just
capacity of the pool? Is that
Kind
what
of
you
look at the
wanna know?
yeah.
Yeah, so we have projections for that. We can do that. End of the day, we can do that.
It'd be a better visual than just saying, okay, this is a 16,000 square foot, because people can't actually see 16,000 square foot, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of warehouse or whatever, they can probably size it up by a building, but pool surface area is gonna be difficult to really project, I believe.
Is there any way we can, I won't be able to get that done for tomorrow.
No, that's fine, I'm just saying, but I just think it'd be a
this-
helper. I mean, yeah, in the future, you know, I think it'd be better to kind of project it. People would probably have, you know, a better perception of what that means based on the capacity.
Maybe add it to the frequently asked questions section?
We could, let me think on it, because I agree. I totally hear what you're saying, and I'm in agreement with you. Let me think about the best way to do it, and when, and how to get that done to where people can utilize it. You know what I mean? So we'll do that, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good.
You've given us a lot of information. Did you tell us, like, what the square footage is of, like, the Plattsburgh pool and the Excelsior
But I could do
pool?
that.
I mean, that would be good for people to be like, okay, what does that mean, 4,000 square foot, compared to, I've been to Plattsburgh and I know what it feels like how much water is there, or the Excelsior pool, or Liberty.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would help to compare it to.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I can have that done for Thursday's meeting. We don't have those examples on the website, so we're not necessarily, you know, needing to put it there. But for Thursday and Monday, and any future meeting that we have, absolutely, we can get the square footage of those facilities that they may know about, and they can start to gauge what we're talking about versus what they've experienced. And I think that's gonna be a really quick way to do it. Yeah, we'll get that done.
The survey, you want to hear anything about that yet?
Yeah.
It was somewhat redundant, I found.
I agree.
I suspect maybe by design, but
It was, yeah, but let's talk about it.
by the time I got to the 4th page, I was glazed over.
I agree.
And I looked at that 3rd page, and I thought the 3rd page was just one whole page. If I wouldn't have been engaged to go through and do it, simply to go through the process, I would have quit.
100%.
Can I say that? Okay, enough of this. If I'm Joe Average Citizen, I probably don't finish that survey. And there was one question, the question that ranked, I had to go through and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, was, I didn't get that at first. And maybe it was the way my mind processed it, but I went through and I'm like, okay, well, that's a 1 to me, and that's a 2, and I got down, I had all these blanks, and I thought, well, What the heck?
Yeah, we want to make this as easy and user-friendly.
It wasn't intuitive to me.
Right.
Okay, do you guys have the printed copies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna use this. This is gonna get frustrating to me. Okay, so let's go through it, and I want to explain the intent, and then we can decide, are we gonna continue to do it or not? At the end of the day, we need to know household demographic information, because we need to know who is and is not responding. If we get all seniors, that's gonna tilt this thing one way, and what we talked about last week is, it comes back and we see all, households with minimal to few kids. Now we know, hey, we need to go target this demographic to get more comprehensive data. So let's go through one by one and see what might we eliminate, and then can we restructure the question. Timing of this, depending on this conversation, may change for that 10 a.m. tomorrow, just depending what all may be changing in this. Okay, so the first question.
Take one of those away.
Well, I'll tell you by the time we leave here what we're gonna be able to do. Okay, so question one, this, from our seat, non-negotiable on this question, we do need to know where they're coming from, primarily because of this GO bonds and property tax vote. We need to be able to parcel out who's a resident here, and separate that data if we need to. So let's keep number one. Number two, we could potentially remove.
You don't want to?
No.
Why don't you want to?
Because a lot of people think they live in Kearney that.
And they don't.
Gotcha.
That have a
Okay.
Kearney
Okay.
address, but don't actually reside within the city
Yep.
limits.
And so their vote wouldn't
therefore,
count.
Right, they're not gonna vote on the
Then let's
go
leave
bonds.
that in.
Neither would
They won't
their-
even be a voter.
their
Right,
Property
okay.
tax increase.
So the theory behind that is maybe not inherently automatic that this would happen, but if we're in a situation and we want to map out where are these addresses in GIS, we have some data to be able to do that to some degree. If we just ask number one, it's not going to be enough, and we're going to end up in the situation where folks think they live in Kearney, but they do not.
Okay.
So that's why we have that in there. So we can do that if we're in that position that we need to. Number three, this is who is responding on the survey. So check your age. Again, this is one question we'll come back to understand who's responding on this thing. If it's a whole bunch of 17 years of age or younger, well, that's not gonna work. We need to be talking to the voters, right? So that's why we have that question in there. Number four is typically used when we're doing attendance and projections for utilization. This question starts to come into play, but not necessarily needed.
Could you maybe change number 3 to reflect your age, April 2024?
We have people that sign their kids up that don't know their birth date and get them in the wrong.
Yeah, that's,
It
Wrong
happens very frequently.
That's gonna-
wrong age division for baseball, softball, football.
mhm.
They'll say.
Just
they're-
today, I had to move a 7-year-old out of a 6-year-old league.
For some people, that's a lot of math.
Yeah.
But it's your age, it's not your
It's the
kids'
respondent's
age.
age.
But
Yeah,
then you're
so the
gonna be
voting
like,
age.
when is that? That's next year. Well, I've had a birth. Oh, I'm not even gonna fill this thing out. I think that adds extra
No, it's
mental.
because it's for you. So if I'm gonna be 18 by April 2024, then I would say I'm 18, because we only care about who's voting. That's the only reason I bring that up. It
But
doesn't,
we don't only care about.
no, I'm sorry, I worded that
Yeah.
incorrectly. I
No,
did, I
you-
worded that incorrectly. Yes,
But we wanna know if they're gonna.
yes, your vote counts.
What if we actually
essentially.
deleted question number 4, but kept number 5? Because what's gonna happen is number 5 is gonna give us number 4.
Yes.
I
Yep,
agree.
Okay, so remove 4.
You could also change, if you're worried about that, Ally, back on number 3, you could change it to 16 years of age or younger, because then you know
That's a
that
good
they're
point.
gonna be voting age.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I like that.
You could do that.
Change it to 6.
Good idea. This is why we meet as a group. We have the RT tech and our survey specialist. Does your neighborhood offer a pool within HOA, apartment, et cetera? This has become a more standard question we ask. Not because we utilize it so much as when those who don't support ask this question, we get to give a response. And that happens on, I'd say, the bulk of our projects where this question gets asked of us. So if you're supportive of that, I'd like to keep that one in just so we can quickly answer it.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are gonna be the difficult questions here, so let's talk about that. And maybe what on these questions here, I have it so that you're ranking them against each other. What we could do instead, and so riddle me this, what if instead of ranking the way we're doing it now, we did something more like, let me show you an example. More like question number 10.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So questions 7 and 8, we're specifically asking about outdoor and specifically asking about indoor. We're trying to figure out what do you want in both of these spaces. In later questions, we're combining them all together, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But these two questions, I'm trying to understand, what do you want? Because I would project what we're gonna find out is we want family, leisure, kids services outdoor, and we want all those programs inside. Kids if we can get it, but that is what has happened over and over again. We're studying indoor versus outdoor. That's usually what happens. So I wanna be able to lean on this and say, here's how it's skewing towards outdoor, here's how it's skewing towards indoor.
And do you see a difference in what people want?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, yep, and the easiest way for me to say that is outdoor is affiliated with leisure, fun, summer, eating your sandwich at the concession stand, family fun. Indoor, I cannot say 100%, but a large majority of time, we're gonna hear swim team, fitness, swimming lessons, lap swimming, usually. Now, will families wanna use the indoor? Yes, but it's to a lesser degree. You're gonna hear families say, I don't have the time. I will when I can. I'd love to have the birthday party once a year there, but I'm not gonna be there every day, like those other demographics. So yes, I feel very confident in saying we are gonna see a different response given the outdoor versus indoor.
Understood.
And that's gonna be helpful to us. If we end up in a position where we do wanna explore both, just like in this scenario, 3 and 4, that's where that's coming from. 3 is from multiple other projects just like yours. That's why I structured it that way, because that's what we find very often.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's going to happen, I can't tell you that, but that is what we see. So that's why I have 7 and 8. So if I structured it more like 10, how do you feel?
I like that.
I like
Well, I answered 10 quicker, so.
Definitely,
right.
you get the information you need from that, you'll still get
Yeah.
priority.
Yeah, and the way I have it structured now is it's gonna tell me really easily which is the highest priority. If we have to start cutting, or we wanna make sure we absolutely include something, this is structured best to answer that, but I can still do it based off of the question.
If you want number ranks, can you have somebody select 2 as an option for multiple questions, I guess?
No,
Okay.
no, unfortunately not. But let's not worry about that. Well, I can utilize this question still if I structure it like 10.
Understood.
And at the end of the day, you guys are gonna have your opinions, staff is gonna have opinions, we're gonna bring industry trends that we see and what we see in other communities, and we're gonna meld all this together. You know what, I should have started like that. Every project is comprised of 3 perspectives. It's the community's perspective, goals, and needs. It's the staff's goals and needs and the operational piece. And then it's your consultant team's kind of viewpoint and what they see and what they experience and what is happening on other projects. So it is a blend of all that that gives you your solution. So I'm very comfortable in changing the makeup. And at the end of the day, this is a long survey. I agree. This is long, but what we're trying to do, because of what has happened in the past, the scale and magnitude of what we're talking about, we're trying to get as much data as we can right now so that we can spend the next set of months producing the solution based off of what people actually think. But we do need them to complete the survey. So let's go through, see where we can cut or adjust to make this as easy as possible. So I'll change number 7 and number 8.
As in take them out?
No, I'll restructure it.
Like
Like
number
number
10,
Number 10.
instead of ranking these. it's
Yeah,
just-
no, I get it.
just like
But I,
kinda-
like Greg said, I started to glaze over. And,
Those are easier than the others.
yeah,
It could be number
And they
10
were
can go.
redundant. I felt like they were redundant questions.
You mean number 9 or number 8?
From like 7 through,
Well, see, 7 was outdoor, 8 was indoor. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that was, I see it now,
Maybe it needs to be like bolded.
but it is.
What
It is
I would
bolded.
Bigger
say
font.
from
Okay,
survey.
Is it bolded now?
It is bold.
Okay, great.
What I would say from a survey perspective, I mean, if you're doing this stuff, I would have this ranked from 10 being the most important, or 1 being the most important, and go down 10, and that way you look at, what is the highest priority, and then you grade it. That, to me, that would give you
Well,
a
that's what
much
she does
better.
now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Where does it say
Well,
that?
that's what questions 7 and 8 are.
Oh, that's what 7 and 8, hold on.
Yeah.
We're gonna switch them to like they do in 10.
Well, 7 and 8 is like that?
How about this?
What?
We get rid of 10 and 11.
get rid of 10 and 11.
I see the drop down and stuff like that, but I'm just saying, if all you had on this survey, and you say, okay, how many bullets are here? Can you tell me,
No.
Okay, well, anyway, you'll say there's 12. So then you rank what is most important is number 1, and then you go down, so you say, okay, the very 2 least important, so most of the people would want this, and this, but as it goes down, this is the least important of all the people on that survey, and you can use statistics and analyze it by that method, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it functions like that, and I'm just not doing a good enough job communicating that.
Well,
But I do feel really strongly we keep outdoor and indoor separate, because the needs are going to be different. If we keep everything all together, I'm not gonna be able to piece out what goes where. And we're still gonna be in a position of guessing where they want those lap lines, as an example.
What is the point of number 9 if we've just talked about those things in 7 and 8?
We could potentially get rid of that. I think 9 and 10.
I think 9, 10, and
Are
11, or
redundant.
if you want to keep 9.
What if we
But-
kept 9, because that's just checking things on and
Right.
off,
Right.
but ditched 10 and 11?
I like that.
Because 10, I thought was very redundant from 9.
Yeah, so the reason that came to be is in a statistically valid survey, they have different statistical software to run this data through. We don't have that. We're not doing a statistical valid. None of our team members have that statistical software. So what happened there, I'll just tell you, let's delete it, but I just want to tell you why 9 and 10 are there. In a statistically valid survey, the type of question that is asked is, do you have a need for this, yes or no? If yes, how important? This software cannot run the question that way, so I had to pull them apart. So at the end of the day, what happens is 9 gets assessed against 10. So how important is it needed? And we get a statistic off of that, and then it's how important is that? And then they get weighted against each other. So I'm comfortable getting rid of 10 and 11 based off of 7, 8, and 9. And we can infer some things,
Or
so
keep
some of
9,
that's gonna
or
come
get
in.
rid of 9 and keep 10 if you need that data.
You know,
6 or half dozen, I suppose.
I think that we can use 7 and 8 and get what we need, and get rid of 10. That's my honest opinion. And
Get
what my
rid of
gut
10
is
and
telling me.
11.
10, 11 is gone.
Okay.
Number 12, this is ranking what's most important, outdoor, indoor, or both. This is a question we ask on these projects, just like this. We force them to rank. If we say how important, they're gonna say very important on everything. I do think we need to keep this one like this. We need to force the hand to
There's
to
only
rank.
3, I mean.
Right.
Yep. 13, and we can change any of these categories as well, but these are common ones we use. So when we're developing a facility, it's not necessarily, this question isn't about features by itself. It's, here's all the different considerations when it comes to development. Classes and programs, right? So as swimming lessons offered, is how I want to use it going to be included? That's going to be important to me. But how important is that? Fees and costs to use, that's going to be a pretty big one that you probably can expect to hear back. Fund features and amenities, that's one of the elements. That's probably going to come back pretty important. Required funding to develop the project, so that's the money piece. It's probably going to come back pretty important, we can expect. Operate to maximize cost recovery. That one's gonna come back low ranking, I'm just gonna tell you now. It always does, because the general community doesn't particularly care about that. Staff does, you might, our Board of Aldermen will, but general community will not. And then other recreational amenities nearby. The reason I added that is I'm thinking about the site, we're thinking about what else may go on that site, and what we wanna start to get a lay of the land of is what does the community think about that? So if having other rec amenities nearby ranks neutral or higher, we know we're gonna have to start to orient to other site development going on this property. We can expect that to happen. What I mean by that is expect to get feedback that people care about that. So it could be any number of things. It could be green space, it could be fields, it could be, I don't know what else. But that's what that particular one is trying to get at, is start to understand, do they want other things around the swimming pool? How do you feel about number 13?
Now that you've explained that, I don't think that's how I read that question.
On
How did you
13,
read it?
number 13,
Yeah.
Tony?
That's what she said.
I understood it to mean that there were other recreational facilities around me, and so did that make a difference in whether I wanted a pool here or not? Did you guys take it to mean what else is available on the acreage where the pool is?
Well, I did, but I kind of know that we were, at one point, we talked about building a pool and then building the rec center, so
Yeah,
I
I can
kind of.
definitely see how you would think.
Yep.
That's how I took it. What other recreational facility, I put in the word facility.
Maybe
Huh?
you should say other
Just
recreational-
reword it.
recretional.
I don't know,
amenities.
but
Yeah,
what
I'm with you.
other,
I thought that as well.
On-campus.
what other recreational activities are located on the property? Or
What did you
something?
just say,
There's a
future?
reason why I don't.
Future is good. Future is good.
Yeah.
Future recreational amenities offered
On-site.
on-site. Yes, that's a better
Okay,
word.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
site or campus?
I like on-site.
On-site. Future recreational amenities on-site.
Yeah.
Sound okay?
Yeah.
That's clear.
Then we have them look through the 4 different scenarios. This is gonna be really challenging for them. So I'm gonna explain the thought. We need to know what their feeling is about voting, which means we have to lay the land about what they would potentially be voting on. So just like I walked you through the scenarios previously, that's what we're trying to do here, and give how you can use it, what the budget is gonna be, and what the implication is going to be. So that's, this question, we could wait to ask it. However, it was decided that we wanna have an idea now, so that as we do concept development, we know in general, what is the tolerance for this project at all? So that we don't continuously work through 4 different scenarios with various budgets, and then we end up in a situation where they say, yeah, I want that, but I'm not willing to pay for it.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because it said on the next 3 pages, and it'll be on the
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Don't you think we should have the scenarios first, and then they say from the previous, this way they can look at all the scenarios, which one they like, and then they can check it instead of, well, they gotta go down and scroll through them and then come back.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, easy.
Because if you check,
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, guys, this is
You're a
how
pro.
projects go. No, listen, nothing is ever right the first time, right? You guys have your perspective, you know how your community's gonna do this.
I
This
mean,
is
that's
not-
just my thought. I don't know what the board is thinking,
I
but
like it.
Yeah, that is good.
I wanna see something first and look at the scenarios and then go through and say, I love scenario 3, or I love scenario 4. I love scenario 4.
Okay, what do you guys, so, long story short, last minute on the website, I ended up adding a little text under key considerations that says, any scenario in any image you see is representative only. This is not I
what we're
forget the
gonna
exact
build.
words I used, but I referenced that,
I
yeah.
think it's important to remember that very, very, very few of these will be returned in printed form. The
Yeah.
vast majority will be online, which the picture will be on that page altogether.
Yeah, it is all together.
So
So-
we might be splitting it.
I
So-
think that when I did this, it was fine. It made sense. Whatever that's worth.
These printed surveys, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna give you all the cards I have. I always will give you all the cards I have. These surveys, the only reason we're collecting them is so we can collect them and do data entry into the online survey when we get back to the office. So these are just for convenience. And usually it is maybe 10, 20 tops that we get of these. But even so, if you think it makes more sense, on the paper copy, we can move it.
I can't
And then on the
remember how it
online
was
survey.
on the online.
Yeah.
Well, it's just all on the same page.
If it's all on the same page, then
Yeah, it
we're
doesn't
okay.
matter.
Yeah, that's
I
why I'm
just
saying,
couldn't remember
we're
Okay.
probably
how it
splitting
was.
hairs on
Sense.
this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you can,
Splitting
The way my brain works, I mean, I like seeing this first, and then if I have any questions, I just scroll down and there it was.
Personally,
And
I
it
like
answered my question
I like
like
the framing that you're gonna know what to expect, when you look at it. It's,
I will also say, when I got to this, I was very excited. I don't know, I know people are gonna have a hard time reading through all that. I felt very informed.
I did too. I
When,
got
I
to
mean,
it.
basically, your entire presentation was this. I mean, you didn't say anything I didn't already know,
Yep.
because I already read it. So I really like that.
Should I put on the
If
front?
people
Just
will
hang
do
in.
that. Yeah, just hang in, because, yeah, the information is there. I felt informed.
The tax chart and then the,
Yes.
Yeah.
operations
Yeah.
and everything are the three most important pieces in the entire thing.
agree.
And I'm glad that tax
And
chart is there.
honestly-
It explains it down to the day how much
This,
it's gonna cost.
we need to carry
Yeah, that
around,
was fantastic.
as a staff, we're gonna carry around this, the operations chart
Yep.
and the tax.
Yeah.
So we can answer almost any question off of that.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, truly, so.
Sure.
Well, easy, all this stuff, by the way, easy. So you're not being complicated, so don't walk out of here and think you are, you're not. In fact, I've had 4 different types of meetings, so you guys are doing it. But yeah, I can move it, and up on the screen, I threw, this is the preview site. I can take that chart, put it up at the top. Let me play with it, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna see that and go, what?
Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
looking at this?
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe on the printed, we move it,
And leave it on the
and
online.
leave it as is here, because it's just sitting right there. There is no different pages.
Mhm.
It's just sitting right there. I just worry that we start here, and that's gonna take multiple scrolls to get to the question. So what I don't want to happen are people say, oh, I think the survey's done, and click out of it, when I do want them to see there's a question, and the supporting data is down below.
I just couldn't
That's
remember how it was on the online.
Right.
But on this, if we get a few of them, I think vice versa.
Okay, so that's funding. I think the scenario, I'm sorry, not funding, that's the scenarios. I, personally, the funding piece is really hard. So let's talk about that, but first is usage. So these are standard questions, and I think I told Eric and Ryan the other day, when it comes to surveying, I structure these in a particular way. I try to do easy questions, a little bit more difficult questions, go easy again, and then if we have to go complicated again, I do, versus all easy and then all complicated. Because I agree, the survey is long, it's gonna be fatiguing a bit. So I'm all in for cutting where we need to cut, but so far, we cut the 2 questions, everything else is pretty needed by us. It's the funding that really is taking a lot of mental energy, in my opinion, but they're still very, very important. We need to know where the lines are at regarding funding. But first is usage. 15 and 16, these are standard for us. In the online survey, and I think you probably saw this in the directions when Eric emailed you, we have logic worked into the survey, so depending how they answer something, it's gonna skip them to the appropriate next question. And the paper copy, we can't do that, which is why you're saying go to question whatever. So has someone utilized a swimming facility in the last 2 years? Again, we want to know who's responding. If they're all non-users, we know that's not quite right, so we know we need to do some other push for community engagement, and vice versa. If we get 100% of people saying, yeah, I use, that's good for this study, but we know there's others out there, and it may indicate that we do need to solicit some more feedback, so it's how I use that question. And then number 16, I like to know where they're going so that we can study that particular facility and figure out how can we get them coming to you. We think we know where they're going, but this is the only way we actually know where they're going. So that's where all those questions are coming from and how we use them.
Is that a required, is 16 required?
Not required.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry, let me ask you a question. Do you mean is the respondent required to answer it?
Correct.
Only if they select yes, and even then it's not required, they can bypass it.
Okay.
And people do. People will bypass questions, so just know that.
Okay.
I think the only one I have set up that they're forced to answer is the resident question.
Okay.
We make them answer that. Everything else is gonna be skippable. I can even put pages in there that says, you're doing a great job, keep going.
I like it.
I would do it if y'all wanted me to. Okay, these next set of questions, again, all about utilization. We use this in a myriad of ways. If you see a respondent's coming back on outdoor, you're gonna see them say, I visit several times a week. It's a very common answer. And on indoor, you're probably gonna see once a month, several times a year, etc. We use that to prioritize outdoor and indoor. We also utilize that when we're doing attendance projections. So we're gonna use previous data of the survey, how many are in your household, apply that to utilization that they report to start to craft what is your attendance going to be like potentially based off of how they responded on this. Again, not required, but that's how and why we utilize these questions. So that you can have that type of information. Because you know, will you build an indoor pool at 30 million, 27? Will you build the indoor pool for people who will come several times a year? That's gonna be a priority that we have to make. I'm sorry, a decision that we'll have to make. So that's why we ask those questions, not required, but that's how and why. 19 is saying, if the amenities you selected as being important are included in a Kearney facility, will it change how much you visit? We want them to say yes, because it's closer, it has what they asked for, and that all leads to revenue. So that's why I asked number 19. If they come back and say the frequency would stay the same, then we're gonna be able to run that attendance projection, which equates to a revenue and expenditure projection. So 17 through 19, not required on our end, helpful if we're in a position where we need to be projecting attendance. 20, we could remove. It is different in intent in the way I asked this question versus, what's the other one where they ranked 1, 2, and 3? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Because you're asking this later after they've had a chance to think about amenities. So I kind of like the fact that you bring this one back after they've kind of went through the scenarios. So I don't know that I would want to get rid of 20.
It's pretty important, and I'm glad you caught on to that. I craft surveys. So first of all, I'm the one in our office who does nearly all of our public engagement, surveying, and planning projects. So when I do a survey or I go through a presentation, I try to tell the story and I build it like a story. So everything is about building blocks. So you're right, I put this here strategically because we've gone through and oriented the respondent to what we're talking about. So the initial question is, what do you use right now? That's before we have them start thinking critically. Then we get them thinking critically and envisioning the facility in Kearney, how they want to use it, what they're going to support, that type of thing, and we hit them with it again. Now that their brain is oriented to what we're talking about. Previously, it was just, what do you do? You know, what do you think right now before I walk you through the rest of this stuff? So, okay, we'll keep 20. 21, this should be a really simple question, but this is all the activities that are really common in these types of facilities. So again, even more so I'm comfortable eliminating question 10, because in question 21, we already know what they're gonna need for all these activities. They may or may not know. So we can still come back to this question and feel okay that we deleted number 10. Because we can come back and say, oh, you know, 90% of people want competitive swim lanes, and now we know what that is going to, require. Funding. I am going to be really curious what you think about the funding piece. Okay, is it, so my main concern We worked and reworked funding to get to this point. It is a lot of information, but it's very important information. And again, we don't, none of us, me, staff, you, nobody wants to be put in a position where the community says, you didn't tell us this. So we're just trying to be very open, and we know we have the 2 ballot measures. We're absolutely required to do anything. So we want to be very forthcoming with all that information, and that 3rd ballot, we do want to know what's your tolerance for that. Because we may find that people say, and I'm just guessing, we may find that the first 2 people are more willing to do, but that 3rd one is a no, which inherently orients us to the type of facility we're looking at and to what scale and scope that is going to be. So that's kind of my introduction to all of that.
Just a quick note, I don't know if you want to add this or not, but we could recover costs on 3 and 4 because they could be utilized for swim teams and the school. Do you want to, can we add something like that?
What do you mean recover costs?
Well, swim team is going to pay to use it, and like a league or whatever, and then also the school would pay to use it.
Well,
So those
people are
cost
gonna
recovery.
pay to use it too.
I know, but that's additional cost recovery is what I'm thinking.
We
So-
don't know what the cost recovery, what the school would pay.
You haven't,
We don't have, that'll come down the line. I know Sheila's talked with the school on their wants and their needs. But if we have an indoor facility, is with them using the facility, is that going to get us to the threshold where it's a equal balance of that? We don't know that, depending on.
Let me give you a frame of reference. Currently, the swim team pays $13,000 a year. That is not gonna touch capital development, it's not gonna touch annual operations for it. So swim team, yes, they'll come with revenue, but not to the level that
is that the school swim team, or is that Purple Wave?
school swim team, not Purple Waves. We have not spoken to Purple Waves. Typically with swim teams, they are willing to pay, but not the level to recoup costs. And so we could put something about swim team in there, but what I wouldn't want to say is, and we would reach cost, 100% cost recovery, or that we would recoup costs. We would get some revenue, but so would having a birthday party room. And I don't want to say one is any more important than the other, and I don't want to say that this program is going to be the winning ticket, because we just can't say that right now, that it will be.
Can we find out how much Purple Wave pays to use facilities?
Okay, I feel like it's very, very important to be very conservative at this point, right? I do not want to overexcite the community and let citizens think that their costs are going to be lower. Like, the last thing we want to do is tell citizens that it's going to cost this much and it be more. I'm okay with saying it's going to be this much and then us finding out more information and be able to bring it down after we find out if we are even going to be able to put lap space in that.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
Only 2 of these scenarios can be utilized in that capacity.
Yeah, and it's such a little amount.
I'm just sharing this
Yeah,
as a thought process.
Totally makes sense.
Right.
And I am so afraid, so our community has been waiting for this for a really long time. And it's taken this long because nobody actually wanted to ask the citizens if they wanted to pay for it, right? And so.
Actually, we have twice.
Yeah,
Well,
we have.
But they didn't have a presentation like this and tell them what it was going to
True,
be,
but I'm saying,
what
this
they were
answer,
getting,
it
and
has.
Sheila's explaining
twice.
that
yeah,
correctly.
and so what,
Well,
the citizens, and we limited it, hey, you can have this, maybe they didn't wanna pay for that. I wanna know, what do you want? And are you willing to pay for it? Because that's, maybe we only offered them outdoor or only YMCA or something like that, and they're like, well, that's all I want. I love this process because we are opening it up and letting them tell us what they want and what they'd be willing to pay
spend.
for.
Mhm.
And then maybe the sales tax will generate enough money that we would actually be able to lower the property tax levy, so they wouldn't be enough, but I don't want them to, I want them to say, yeah, I would be willing to do that, and then after we find out that they want this or that, then as we narrow it down, we can actually figure out, and before they vote, and tell them what it will actually be.
Yes, and I'd like to tack onto that, and so it's kind of to your point. So this is what they're gonna care about, what's gonna happen with the sales tax, what's gonna happen with the property tax, what are they gonna pay to get in?
Right.
And as a part of that, swim teams, right? What would we potentially charge? So right now, the swim team, Kearney High School, I'm not sure about Purple Wave, pays $13,000 a year to utilize another facility. Let's up that a little bit. They don't have to drive, so maybe they're willing to pay $15,000 to $16,000 a year. I don't know, I'm just guessing. Purple Wave is probably gonna be somewhere in that realm as well. But as a part of this process, we'll do business planning for you. We don't know what we're planning yet, so we can't do that right now, but as we move forward, as we build the concepts, we decide, are we doing swim team or not, or what are we doing? Then we start to say, here are the hours. Here are the fees based off of your market and the nature of your facility. Here's what we would recommend. Here's how many sales you'd have to have. Swim team can come in. Here's what that would look like. We'll do staffing projections. So swim team comes in at 6. What is that? And so what we can do under that scenario is say, okay, you want a lap pool, you want to utilize it. Here's what it's going to cost to operate this thing. And here's going to be the fee that we're going to ask of the swim team in order to make that happen. So that's all a part of this process. We're not there yet because we don't even know what we're working with.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. I don't want to forget your point. I don't want to dismiss your point. So what you were saying is scenario 2 and 4. 2 and 4. 3 has the programming for.
Right.
So
Wait, I thought 2 only have 4 lap lanes.
No, that's 3.
Oh, okay.
2 and 4 are for the swim
2
team.
and 4 are for the swim team. So then the question is, do you want to call that out? Usually we don't, because then you're going to have swim teams step forward and they're going to become a predominant voice. And then we're in a situation of we need more families and seniors and adults. So I don't know that I want to section off swim team, because from what we see, aqua fitness is so important. Parties and swimming lessons are so important. So I don't necessarily want to call out one program that we already know. I can't say I don't know, believe or think to be true that swim team is going to be a revenue generator for you, but not any more than any other program. So I don't want to call swim team forward and then put all of our eggs in that basket, and then other people feel dismissed and that they are going to receive something. So I did put, and I'm not saying this is again the smoking gun, in the big purple graph. I do have swim meets and swim team and dive meets, and swim and dive meets and practice called out in the scenarios in which they apply.
Yeah, you do.
So I do have that. So are you okay if we keep it as is, knowing that swim and dive is called out in the appropriate
You have it
scenarios?
on 1, but I don't think 1.
So your summer swim team can do 1.
Lauren, can I make a statement here?
There were lap pools and one outdoor pool.
From a city's perspective, I want to be very careful that we do not mention the school. And the reason being, I do not want the voters to think that we're building a pool for the school, because we didn't build their football stadium, we didn't build their baseball stadium, we didn't build their gym. This is a city pool. It's not the high school's pool. And so I would like for going forward that we make sure that we don't single out the high school and their swim team, because I think there will be people in there that won't vote for us if they think, oh, hey, we're building a swimming pool for the high school. So if we can keep it to where it's just general swim teams, I think that would be best. So
Great point, thank you.
I would like to make sure that we don't single out the high school.
Yes, I understood, I hear you. There is one point in the survey I do, and it's just because of Peach Jar. It's one of the ways that people hear about information, and that's the only time in the survey. And then, but verbally, on my side and maybe staff side, we keep any specific school, anything else specific, we're gonna keep it out of our mouths, we'll keep it general. Swim team, dive team, that's it. You are gonna have swim team step forward, even going through the KCMO process. We got some Kearney response, we got some Liberty response. We know that there is, through that process, we know there is a need / desire for indoor space up this way. We've been put on notice, we know that that's probably gonna happen, so I'm sharing it with you because we already learned this lesson. So we're gonna find out what happens through yours. Okay, so that's 21. I'm sorry, not 21, we're on funding. So question number 22 is just talking about how supportive they are for those first 2 ballot measures. That's gonna be the 19.5 in GO bonds for capital and the half-cent park sales tax for annual operation. How supportive are they of those 2 things? And again, anytime we say GO bonds, I am, as frequently as possible, gonna tie it right back to the property tax levy, because they will not understand unless it is told over and over and over again. This impacts you because you're gonna have to pay a property tax levy to pay back the GO bonds. The GO bonds aren't free, you pay them back by a property tax levy. So when they vote, they're voting on GO bond, but the impact is through the property tax. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to be very clear anytime we talk about this, that those 2 things are synonymous together. Okay. 23, on the online survey, they're only gonna get this question if they answer not supportive or not supportive at all. If they answer very supportive or supportive, they bypass it automatically and they go to the next question. What we're gonna learn through why they're ranking low, it's gonna help us craft whatever concept and recommendation is coming. Because if we hear back that, oh, I'm only willing to support the indoor facility, that's gonna be telling to us based off of that and then everything else combined. And I do apologize, I know we're far, far over, but thank you, we're almost done. Number 24. This question is referring to the 3rd ballot measure. Public comes back and says you want something bigger than what those other 2 can, or what the 19.5 and GO bonds can afford. What do you think about that? I do anticipate number 23 and 24 are gonna come back, 22 and 24 are gonna come back different. We did it this way for a reason, so we know the threshold of support. Again, that we may come back and be surprised, and every general community says, yeah, I'm actually pretty supportive of all of it, great. But we do want to keep these separate, and these are 2 very separate questions because it's going to guide the total budget. So again, if this comes back poor, that scenario 4 starts to become not feasible inherently because we don't think that we're going to be able to pass a vote. If that makes any sense. Number 25, I'd like to call out, I did add a checkbox at the very top. So if someone on this 3rd ballot measure says, I do not support it, I gave them the option to report to us, but I do support the first 2. Again, I want to hammer home and try to understand to the best of our ability where's your support line. So I just want to call out that I did have that option. Number 26, it feels like it's the same, but the respondent is not going to think this is the same question as number 22. This is now this is really focusing on the property tax. So yes, it's the same as the GO bond, but if there was a disconnect with the respondent in this way, I want to ask them one more time and give them the chart and say, what do you think about this property tax levy? And again.
It was excellent with the chart.
Okay.
For mine.
So that's why we're doing it that way. Is it duplicative? A bit. But again, I don't want to risk that someone has the disconnect between the GO bonds and the property tax levy.
I was not expecting this much information in the survey. I was fully educated on the project. I fell through this, so
Okay.
I appreciated that.
Good. Well, it's hang in. This is going to be a whirlwind, folks. It'll be fun, but it's going to be challenging as we go through this. So thank you for that feedback. 27, we've already kind of reiterated that. Why did you vote negatively on the previous question? 28, this is a standard question we ask. Sometimes city staff like to know this anytime they survey us. However, we're going to utilize this. If we find that we have to do another push, let's say we're not getting the survey responses we want, whether it's because the demographics are missing or the sheer quantity isn't what we're looking for, we know where people are going and we can be pushing out to those platforms. It's happening anyway. It's just a little data point for us.
Is there a number you want to reach with that that's statistically significant for you based on the population?
This is not statistically valid, so this will not be a statistically significant survey. But the number that we're looking for is gonna be around the 400 to 500. I can tell you, we're setting goals for communities like yours around that, and we are exceeding it almost every time. So the goal is 400 to 500, but I would expect that we get more than that. If it's high priority, if it's high excitement, but also if it's highly controversial, you see that number go up. If it's yeah, I'm excited, but about it, you're gonna see a really low number. So we see high numbers when people are like, yeah, I want this tomorrow.
I think you're gonna, I'm just gonna predict that the people that are gonna take the time, the people that are gonna take the time to look over this survey and fill it out and spend the time with the proponents of the advocates for wanting a pool in this community. The other people, they're not gonna give a crap, they're gonna wait till they vote, and then they're gonna vote no. But that's just what I predict.
Yeah.
Because somebody that doesn't want a pool, they're gonna give their opinion, but they're not gonna spend their time in a survey, I don't predict.
But on average, you're only gonna get 10% of the voters to vote anyway.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
that.
it's really low
About
here.
that.
Isn't that something?
So what we do want I'm sorry, I keep saying this.
1,200.
We want the people who think they're gonna vote no. We want them to show up because I wanna confront why. I want to hear that. They need to release that pressure. And typically what happens, they're gonna show up to the public meeting, and this, if you show up on Monday, we can all expect this. At some point, I bet I have to be stepped to the side, and I gotta let that pressure off with somebody, because they need to be able to do that, to think more clearly moving forward. And sometimes they're the first person through the door. This has literally happened to me one time. A woman comes in and kicks the door open, ends up in the middle of the room, and she wanted to talk about why the city was failing in economic development. Nothing to do with the swimming pool itself. That's what that particular meeting started off like. So we're prepared for anything. You're champions, you're advocates of Parks and Recreation, which means this is gonna be a project that's important to this board. Board of Aldermen is gonna be important. So I just ask that we go along the journey together. We're all champions for this. We try to remain consistent in what we're talking about. Report back to whether me or Eric or Ryan or Sheila, report back what you hear. All of it is important. So I don't want you to kind of dismiss something that happens, because if you hear something and you hear something and I hear something and he does, and it's all consistent, it may not be living in the survey, but it's sentiment that's living kind of more subtly. I don't want to ignore it. So I just ask that you share information that you learn, and then we'll do what we can with that. Okay, so for the survey, let's talk real quick about timing tomorrow. But past that, survey will go live tomorrow, website gets released tomorrow. This thing has been kicked off officially. All right, as we go along, I'll share with Eric and Ryan and Sheila any updates, and then they can pass that along to you. You also can call me anytime, you can text me, Eric texts me sometimes, text, call, whatever the case is. I like to keep that relationship open, so we don't miss anything.
This is about survey 6.
That's conservative, honestly.
Yeah.
If they don't complete the entire survey, you get the results of what they did complete, okay?
They're gonna have to click submit. If they,
At the
which is
very
why,
end?
yes, I put in the directions on the first page, you have to click this
Okay.
button. That is one of the things regarding an online survey, they're gonna have to click submit.
I can see a question pop up. People against this are gonna say, what happened to the TIF money that we already voted for?
That bought the land.
And is that the response?
$750
It went to
came
buy
from
the
the
land
land.
and it's gone,
Well, some of it will come back as
more of it
the
is.
property develops out there, but that money has already been used to.
I can see
acquire
that
this
being
land.
on your frequently asked question list.
Sheila has a good estimate.
Yeah, we have about $750,000 on hand right now. It's not the TIF, it's the CID.
Yeah,
So the Community Improvement District, it's its own separate political subdivision. It is in existence until 2043. And so we were already 10 years in. We used a big chunk of that money to buy the land. Some of the $750,000 is that this is how we hired Water's Edge to help lead us through this community engagement process. Just so you guys know, this year that just finished, fiscal year 2023, the 12 months after we paid the TIF obligation. So 50% of all of the economic activity taxes that are generated in that CID area, they go to the TIF to pay the developer back for costs that were allowable under the TIF law. So 50% of all those sales taxes that are generated go to pay the TIF. So the net amount after the TIF obligations were paid generated about $270,000 this year, before it paid for its attorney's fees or insurance expenses, which are not huge over in the grand scheme of things, but takes another $50,000 each year. So I just kind of did the math, $270,000 times 20 years, which is what we have left, would generate $5.4 million. And then let's say that we have the cash on hand of $750,000, pretend like we're not paying, you know, you're talking about $6.1 million. That you can see, it's not a lot. And some of this money will probably go to help pay for design costs.
So we'll talk. We don't have to have this for the timeline we're trying to meet tomorrow, but
A lot of people are gonna ask it though. We
Then
saw it a lot
They
on
are, they are.
Facebook. And because I think probably the city expected that, when they were planning, that the CID was going to generate a lot more sales tax revenue. And it might someday, like maybe it will all get built out and maybe it will all be retail that's generating eats. But that just hasn't, the grocery store is generating the biggest amount of money. The grocery store is actually the city's largest sales tax generator in our entire city.
But I think a lot of the community thinks, well, we already have that money, that was supposed to go for the pool.
They
Why
do.
do I have to vote on more money to go for the pool? Because that's paying for it.
You're exactly right,
And they
which
don't-
is why we need to explain it to
Yeah,
them.
it needs to be
And so,
explained.
you know, reach out to me. I don't know all the answers, but I have access to do the research to figure it out. It was because of a message or, you know, comments on the Facebook post and keeping Kearney community informed that directed me to come and do the research on this. And so I definitely want to answer everybody's question. I don't want to hide anything from anyone, so I just need to know about the question. I might not always see it, so if you guys see something, like, let me know.
Financially wise.
And I would love to, you know, find out. I just want to give facts, because it's the I want the community to make the best decision. And I don't know what that best decision is, because each person has a different perspective.
we'll add the FAQ. Let's work tomorrow and figure out whatever the question and whatever the answer will be that fits.
Sure.
Good.
Okay. Well, that was a ton. I thank you for your time. I'll be back in front of you. Like I said, I'm gonna be here along the way.
Thank you for your
Thank you, guys.
presentation. It was
Thank
very
you.
thorough.
Thank you. Sorry.
I need signature and a signature.
And do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Who made the motion?
All right, Ally,
Ally Jorn or Willie?
all in favor? Woohoo!
A little redundant.
We kind of needed
Lauren, I was thinking of one more thing on the
we
survey.
needed an intermission to
I was
get
thinking
up
one
and
more
do a
thing on the
seventh
survey,
inning